Okay. Good morning to all. Another interesting Saturday with iSchoolConnect. Let's wait for a few minutes. Okay, we have participants, we have people joining in. That's wonderful. Another great Saturday with iSchoolConnect. We are gonna have a blast discussing all about GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL examinations. There were a lot of queries which you guys asked, and it's great to come up with this session considering that people, and we are in the peak of the season where students like you are probably want all that information about examinations. So let's hold on a few minutes, and as we have more people joining in, meanwhile, I would request you all to punch in all your questions that you have into the chat section, so that at the very end we can discuss and we can answer all your queries, all those interesting queries about your examinations. So type in your questions. We'll try to answer all of them, as many as possible, and we'll try to address them as much as possible. Okay, we have more people joining in. Also, I would request all of you to type in the countries and the cities that you are coming from. Help me understand what my audience looks like. Okay, we have questions coming in. Okay, we have people from India. We have few more people. We have some people from Bangladesh. That's good. Okay. Several more questions coming in. That's good. Okay, we have some people from Pune. That's wonderful. Great audience. So probably we can begin now. So this session will cover all the nuances for your international studies and your examinations, whichever will be there. Few popular examinations are GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE is one more there, ACT, SATs are there. So let's begin. So in this duration of 1 hour, we will be covering why entrance examinations, why universities require entrance examinations, what are the different types of examinations, which exams you should prepare for, different types of examinations, English, Proficiency, MBA, MS, which exam do I need to prepare and how do I need to prepare. So we'll cover all of them. Keep typing in your questions. We'll try to answer them, and we'll cover most of your answers during the session. But whatever questions are left, we'll try to answer as many as possible. Why entrance examinations? So entrance examinations gives the university to judge you, as well as it's a gateway for universities overseas. It is a way for you to prove your capabilities, although examinations are not the only way to prove your capabilities, but this is one way for universities to know your capabilities. Examinations help you receive scholarships. Many universities actually consider your exam scores as a way of giving you scholarships, be it merit-based, be it need-based scholarships. We had an interesting previous session on scholarships, how to get scholarships. You can visit our YouTube website to probably see that webinar which we conducted last month. It also helps predict your ability to succeed, and also it compensates for other scores. For example, you are missing few of your transcripts, so it helps bridge that gap of previously given entrance exams. So what are the types of entrance exams which international universities consider? So it can be, there are primarily two types of entrance exams. One, the most popular one is the English proficiency tests. So you must all be aware that English is the most widely used language across the globe. So people and the mode of communication as well as mode of teaching is through English in most of these countries, be it USA, be it UK, be it Canada. English is the most widely accepted entrance English examination. For countries like Germany, for countries like China, which are becoming more and more popular, even their universities have started English as the mode of examination or mode of communication for their programs. So English is the most widely used. So they need to understand, universities need to understand that you are able to understand English for you to learn things in their universities. That's one. That's why they have English proficiency tests. Second of all, aptitude tests. Aptitude test is another category through which universities judge your aptitude level. Do you know basic English? Do you know basic mathematics? Are you able to understand diagrams? Are you able to understand graphs? So GMAT, GRE have certain integrated reasoning sections, which we'll discuss later. And they speak about why aptitude, what all comprises of aptitude test. So aptitude test helps them judge your basic understanding, your basic skills, your basic ability to comprehend stuff. So we'll discuss aptitude test in a deeper detail. And so after that, you'll be able to understand it a little better, what comprises aptitude tests and why are they important. Let's begin by discussing English proficiency tests. So in the slide, which you can see, there are three major types of English proficiency tests that have been displayed over here. So these are the most widely accepted English proficiency tests. So beginning with TOEFL, so there are three types: TOEFL, IELTS, and PTE. So most of you would have heard of these examinations. Let's deep dive and understand what comprises each of these examinations, English proficiency test. Most countries across the globe widely accept either of the three English proficiency tests. And these English proficiency tests are accepted for both graduate as well as undergraduate programs. That means if you are applying for your bachelor's, then either of the three is acceptable. If you're applying for your master's, then either of the three is acceptable. Let's begin with deep diving into the TOEFL exam. So TOEFL exam, the maximum score is out of 120. So 120 is the maximum which you can actually get score. It's accepted across the globe. Primary countries which accept it is USA and Canada. The global average which students score is 82. But most countries, most English-speaking countries require a 90 plus score, and it's not difficult to crack. The cost of the examination is $200. TOEFL again is an online test, and it's a system-oriented test, and you can book a slot, and it's entirely online. Moving on to IELTS. IELTS, again, similar to TOEFL, is applicable for both bachelor's and master's degree admissions. So IELTS gives you a score out of a band of 9. So there are 4 sections: reading, writing, listening, speaking. Each is scored out of a band of 9, and you get a score out of each on each of these 4 sections. All major countries accept IELTS. Rather to say, IELTS is the most widely accepted English proficiency test across the globe, even more than TOEFL. The average score, global average score in IELTS is an overall 6.5 out of 9. Again, it's an English proficiency test. The cost of IELTS is $175. And again, the advantage of IELTS is that you can either take it on a computer, or in some countries and in some cities, you have the option of choosing it on a writing based examination as well. So it's up to you. You want to give it online, whichever mode you are comfortable in. You can either give it online or you can give it on paper and pen. That's the specialty of IELTS. Moving on to PTE. PTE, again, similar to the previous examinations, it's acceptable for both graduate and undergraduate. The score is out of 90. All major countries except PTE score. It's most widely accepted in Australia and New Zealand. The global average score is 79. And the cost, again, is $160. And it's again, a computer-based examination. So all three bases, the growth in technology, have been converted into a computer-based test. Let's move on. Do type and keep pushing your questions to us. We'll try to address them at the very end. And at any point of time you feel that you need more clarity, just type in your questions and we'll try to address them all. We get a lot of questions from students. Which one should we opt for? Be it IELTS or should I give TOEFL? So although most of these questions, both the examinations are at par and most of them are widely accepted, there are certain nuances which actually help you understand which examination is better. So for example, TOEFL has the IELTS examinations has 4 sections. The reading section, listening section, speaking section, and writing section. So I'll deep dive in a little in what each of these examinations are. So the IELTS require, just let me check the time details of each of them. So IELTS examination is primarily of 2 hours 45 minutes, whereas TOEFL is slightly longer. TOEFL is a 4-hour long exam. So IELTS takes into consideration the British accent as well as the British language, British English, whereas the TOEFL considers specifically American as well as North American, to be more specific, English. The reading section is, if we talk about going deep diving into each of these sections, so the reading section is of duration 60 to 100 minutes. Some passages, it contains passages, 3 to 5 passages, whereas in IELTS, the reading section is of 60 minutes. Both are multiple choice questions. Considering TOEFL and IELTS, both are multiple choice questions. Moving on to the listening section. Listening section of IELTS is a 30-minute section, whereas in TOEFL, it's a 40 to 60-minute section. If I talk about the speaking section is typically 11 to 14 minutes, whereas in IELTS, whereas in TOEFL, it's about 20 minutes. So in writing section, you need to write essays, 5-para essays, whereas in the writing section, for TOEFL, for IELTS, the essays is typically you need to write a 200 to 250 word essay in 40 minutes. Typically, it has 4 to 5 paras. So you can try to understand. You can actually see that TOEFL is a little more extensive, a little more elaborate exam in comparison to an IELTS. 4 hours is a pretty long time, whereas 2 hours 45 minutes is relatively lower. It depends your comfort level in certain scenarios. Most universities, most American universities give a preference to the TOEFL exam, whereas most European, British, UK-based universities give preference to IELTS. Most Canadian universities also give preference to IELTS. So that's you have to understand what your target location, your target country, your target university is. Basis that, you need to see also which scenario you are more comfortable in. Are you comfortable in a prolonged situation? Then you should actually go for IELTS. Just hold on a second. My bad, sorry about that. So you should actually consider basis the length, basis what you are targeting, which is better, IELTS or TOEFL. I would suggest for students who are targeting USA, go for TOEFL, and students who are targeting UK, Canada, Europe, they should actually target IELTS examinations. But there's no hard and fast rule. Most universities have become flexible in accepting either of the two examinations. Let's move on now to specific aptitude level examinations as well as program level examinations. What a specific program requires as an examination. Let's begin by the most widely sought after program, which is an MBA. So typically MBA requires a GMAT or a GRE. So earlier, GMAT was the most specific or the most widely accepted examination for MBA entrance examinations. But things over the past 1 year, 2 years have changed, and universities have started accepting both GMAT and GRE as a mode of considering aptitude level examinations. So today, it doesn't matter whether you are giving a GMAT or you are giving a GRE. Both are widely accepted for MBA as an entrance exam. So MBA entrance exam, so for an MBA, you need to give either a GMAT or a GRE clubbed with an English proficiency test. I recommend giving an IELTS with either a GMAT or a GRE, but we have seen scenarios where students have opted for TOEFL as well as a GMAT and GRE. Let's deep dive into what GMAT or GRE is. So GMAT, again, as rightly mentioned, it's popular among business schools across the globe. GMAT is scored out of a score of 800, and the scoring is done in multiples of 10. So you can get a 650, you can get a 660, you can get a 670, but you won't get a 665 because it's in a multiple of tens. So that's one thing about the maximum score about GMAT. So accepting countries are, as you can see, all major countries are accepting GMAT: USA, UK, Canada, Australia, China, Singapore. All major countries accept the GMAT score. Global average for GMAT score is 550, but considering that the audience in this webinar is primarily Indians, so Indians tend to score a little higher. So average scores who are traveling abroad, who give the GMAT score, the score has been seen, the average score which has been seen is a 620, which is fairly above the global average. If you consider what all topics comprise in a GMAT, so GMAT has an analytical section of 30 minutes called as integrated reasoning. They have a section wherein you have to write one essay in half an hour. That's the writing section. Another section is a verbal section, and then followed by a quantitative section. Few advantages, few disadvantages of the GMAT exam is that it's a computer adaptive test. So what I mean by computer adaptive is that every question basis you scored it right or wrong, the difficulty of the question will increase or decrease. For example, the first question in my quantitative, I answered it correctly. So the second question which I'll get will be of a higher level. If in case the first question I answered it wrong, then the next question, following question, will be of a lower difficulty level. GMAT has another disadvantage, is that you cannot skip questions. You will have to answer all the questions in a specific order. And GMAT, the organization, the computer, penalizes heavily if you fail to complete your examination. So make sure while appearing for GMAT, you answer all the questions within the stipulated time span, and you try to answer them correctly at the very first go. So make sure that at the very beginning you answer all the questions correctly. That's all about GMAT. So the GMAT score is the cost of GMAT examination is $250. So it's fairly expensive. GMAT score is valid for 5 years, but typically universities accept it for a span of 3 years. Although the validity is for 5 years, but universities want your scores to be at least 3 years young. So that's one thing. Moving on to the GRE score. GRE score has a total score of 340. So it's again in incremental of 1 rather than a 10 in comparison to GMAT. So the widely accepted countries using GRE is USA, UK, Canada, France, Singapore, China. The average global score is 290. For Indians specifically, Indians tend to score about 305. An advantage of GRE in comparison to GMAT is that you can skip questions and you can come back to questions. That's an advantage. You need not answer all questions in one go or in a sequence. Whereas in GRE, you can skip questions and you can always come back to the question whenever you have time. So GRE again comprises of 3 sections: analytics, verbal, 4 sections: analytics, writing, verbal. So in GRE, you need to write 2 essays in comparison to 1 essay. So quantitative is 1. The cost of a GRE exam is $205. So now the question arises, which one should I give if it comes to MBA entrance exams? Should I give a GMAT? Should I give a GRE? So GRE, if I talk about the basic difference between GMAT and a GRE, quantitative examinations in both of them tend to remain the same. But the difference lies in the verbal section. GMAT focuses more on grammar, whereas GRE focuses more on your knowledge of vocabulary. So if you're good at vocabulary, you know English words pretty well, then you should actually go for a GRE. If you feel that you have a strong grasp on the English grammar, you should definitely give a GMAT. But always keep in mind, you appear for either of the two. Both are accepted by MBA schools across the globe. So that's an advantage for all MBA aspirants. As always, type in your questions. We will answer all the questions at the very end. Keep pushing your questions, and we'll answer those. Moving on, let's discuss about masters. So masters, typically universities which provide master's programs restrain themselves to the GRE exam. So GRE clubbed with an English proficiency exam is a basic requirement for all master's programs across the globe. So if you are planning to select for a master's, then I would request you all to appear for a GRE and an English proficiency exam like the TOEFLs or the IELTS. So so masters is pretty sorted. You need not think about anything else. It's just GRE and your English proficiency exam which you need to give. Let's discuss about the differences between a GRE and a GMAT exam in depth. So let's begin by the duration of the exam. The GMAT exam is of 3 hours, 7 minutes. The GRE exam in comparison is slightly longer. It's of 3 hours, 45 minutes. As I previously mentioned, you cannot skip questions in GMAT because it's a computer adaptive question exam, whereas you can skip questions in a GRE. GMAT is slightly expensive, about $45. It's $250 in cost, whereas a GRE exam is $205 in basically cost. If I talk about the difficulty, GMAT is slightly more difficult in comparison to a GRE. The emphasis is in GMAT is on grammar, whereas the emphasis on GRE is on your vocabulary. So the scoring system, you score in a GMAT exam, the maximum score which you can get is an 800. There's a 10-point increment, whereas in a GRE, you can score between a 260 and a 340. So the description about each of these sections is already mentioned over here. The quant section, you can the scoring is out of 60, verbal again 60, integrated reasoning is out of you get a score out of 1 and 8, and analytical writing section you basically get a score out of 0 or 6. So the difference primarily GMAT is aimed towards business schools, whereas GRE is for people who are undecided and confused between they want to do a master's program in a technical field or they want to do an MBA, that means a management course. So people who are if you are confused between whether you want to do a master's or a management course, you should actually give a GRE. But if you are sure that you want to give you want to appear for an MBA, probably a management course, then GMAT is the exam for you. For people who are there, who are thinking of applying for arts, the humanities section, basically, they simply need to appear for an English proficiency test, such as IELTS, and they are pretty sorted on that. So that's simply for students of humanities. This is an interesting section. Students who want to go for their bachelor's program, they have recently appeared for their 12th standard exam for their higher secondaries, for their senior secondary, and they want to either do an engineering program outside India, or probably an undergrad level management program. These are the examinations which they need to go. So again, similar to the previous examination, previous master's section, they need to appear for an English proficiency test along with an aptitude test, which can be either an SAT or an ACT. Let's deep dive a little into each of these examinations. So SATs is scored out of 1600. The maximum score is out of 1600. It's accepted across all major countries like USA, UK, Canada, Europe, Finland, Japan. The global average is 1060. The average for Indians is about 1200. SATs comprises primarily of 3 sections: writing, critical reading, and mathematics. All is of an aptitude level. So that's pretty sorted. The cost of the examination is $100. Another similar exam is ACT, which is accepted only in the US, and it's again required for the undergrad. people who want to apply for undergrad. It's scored out of 36, and the global average score is 20.8. Again, it comprises of four sections, four very basic sections: English, reading, mathematics, and sciences. So the cost of the examination is $51. So if you are planning to go for a graduate for a undergraduate level program, then make sure you appear for your English proficiency exam, as well as either of the two, either an SAT or an ACT, depending upon which country are you targeting. Lot of students ask these questions, that when is the right time to start preparing for your examinations. So we have created this beautiful curved chart to explain you that the entire process, the entire life cycle of when you should start preparing, and the entire process of, if you are targeting studying abroad, when should you start preparing, when should you start collating mark sheets, all that stuff. So let's discuss it very quickly. So at iSchoolConnect, we strongly recommend that students start, if they are genuinely interested in studying abroad, they should start preparing for it at least 12 months in advance. So with 12 months in advance, you should have already researched about your colleges. You should have already researched about your colleges. You should have that specific set of institutions already in mind. You should have written it down, and you should have made sure that you know what the eligibility criteria of that institutions are. By the 11th month, with 11 months in hand, you should start preparing. You should have that clarity whether I need to give a GMAT exam, whether I need to give a GRE, whether I need to appear for a TOEFL or an IELTS. You should have that clarity, and you should start preparing for that. You should, by the 10th month, you should start collating your mark sheets as well, because universities internationally require a lot of mark sheets, a lot of documents, your 10th standard, your 12th standard, if you're applying for masters, your graduation level scores, all transcripts are required. By the 9th month, you should kickstart your application process. By that time, you should be done with your, by the 9th month, you should be done with your preparation, and you should have already selected your date, and you should be in the final phases of your preparation. By the 8th month, you should start applying for scholarships, as well as you should have given your examination already. You should, by the 8th month, this is very critical, listen very carefully, by the 8th month, you should have your scores in hand. So for example, if you're trying for fall 2020, which is like September 2020, by this time, we are now in November, by November end, you should already have your scores in hand. So people who are here, you should try to understand that by this time, you should be clear that what examinations you need to appear, what tests you need to give, and you should be ready, and you should, within this month, you should actually try and fix up a date and prepare heavily for that. With 7 months in hand, you should actually have already drafted your resume, your essay, your LORs, your SOPs. With 6 months in hand, you should have paid your application fees, the final submissions. So for example, round 2 deadlines for fall 2020 intake are in December end. So by that time, I strongly recommend that you should have already submitted your application fees and submitted your applications. With 5 months in hand, you should start monitoring your applications, whether I got an acceptance, whether I got a rejection, all that stuff should be done with at least 5 months in hand. With 4 months in hand, you should start applying for student loans. If you want financial assistance, then this is the right time for you. With 3 months in advance, 3 months in hand, you should be ready with your student visas. Visas, trust me guys, visas require a lot of time. You should be ready with your visas with 3 months in hand. So with 2 months in hand, you should book your tickets. And with 1 month, you should always be smiling and ready to go and ready to fly off and say goodbye to your family. Not goodbye, but yeah, you'll always be returning back. So what are the major channels if you want to prepare for any of these competitive, any of these examinations? Considering that these examinations are pretty basic, English, all of us have gone through years and years of English preparation in our schools. So I strongly suggest, specifically for English proficiency exam, it typically takes about 2 to 3 weeks to either prepare for a TOEFL and an IELTS. So self-preparation is the best mode of preparation. But other channels which are available are online test preps, such as Magoosh is there, Kaplan is there. Coaching centers are across the globe are there. Jamboree is one of them. Princeton View is one of them. If you feel that coaching centers is one. There is ton of online stuff available on YouTube channels. There are a ton of YouTube channels who have created videos and help you with videos for your preparation. For aptitude examinations such as GMAT and GRE, GMAT officially provides you a GMAT official guide, which has about 1,200 questions ranging from all the sections, which is sufficient in its own manner. So I strongly recommend that most of you should go for a self-preparation. But if you need but practicing upon tests is really important. Making yourself accustomed to that level of preparation is also important. So I recommend that you go ahead with online test preps like Magoosh. So iSchoolConnect has partnered with Magoosh, and it provides online preparation packages at discounted rate. You can check out our website by registering yourself, and in the exam preparation section, there's a whole ton of offers as well as test prep options for you to opt from for your test preparation, specifically for GMAT, GRE, IELTS, TOEFL. Coaching centers for GMAT, I strongly don't recommend it. But in case you require it, you require personalized attention, you require a classroom-led program, you can either join a coaching center. YouTube, again, there's a lot of channels which provide guidance, assistance on each of the sections of either the GMAT or a GRE. So it entirely depends upon your capacity, your capability, on how much level of preparation you need or how much attention you need. So the time duration of preparation, typically for IELTS and TOEFL, for any English proficiency, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks of minor preparation. If you spend about 1 to 2 hours daily for your English proficiency for about 2 to 3 weeks, you're good to go. You can easily score 100 plus in your TOEFL and an easy 7 score in your IELTS examination. GMAT and GRE typically requires about 2 months of preparation because it's a little elaborate in nature. If you typically spend about 2 to 3 hours daily for about 2 months, you are good to go. You can easily score a 650 plus in your GMAT and 310 plus in your GRE scores, which are, trust me guys, which are very competitive scores. A 650 score in your GMAT exam will easily land you up in a top 150, top 100 global universities, global B schools, and a 310 plus or a 320 plus score in your GRE. You can easily target top 50 universities across the globe. So it just requires a 2 months preparation with 2 to 3 hours of dedicated time on a daily basis. So iSchoolConnect has a lot of content on its website, on its social media channels where you can utilize. We write a lot of blogs to help students like you. So about scholarships, which is better, MBA or MS is better, how to get a visa for UK. We share a lot of student experiences, students who have gone through us, students who have shared their experiences. They give you a first-hand experience of how they felt, how they prepared up for their examinations. So all that you can easily get on our website. So just go through our website, go through our YouTube channel, go through our social media channels. There's a ton of information which you can actually utilize. So utilize upon that. For students who are attending this webinar, we have a special offer for you. To all students who are attending this webinar, we are giving free university shortlisting for you. We will analyze your profile for free. We will give you a set recommend list of universities for free so that you can start acting upon that. And you can actually schedule a free counseling session with our experts. They'll analyze your profile. They'll help understand what your requirements are, and then they'll give you a set plan. They'll guide you across how you should, which university you should apply for and which examination you apply for. So make sure you connect with us through our website, through our phone numbers, which I'll shortly share with you, and we can go ahead and help you out. So let's hope that's been an interesting session for all you guys. Let's move on to a few Q&As which we can attend. So what should be my GMAT score if so Myra Chaudhary asked a question, what should be my GMAT score if I want to apply for MBA in Canada? Interesting question. So typically, there's no fixed criteria as to what a GMAT score or a GRE score should be. Try to understand, guys, GMAT and GRE are not the one-stop examination for any university to evaluate you. A typical GMAT or a GRE score or an IELTS TOEFL score contribute to about 20%, only 20% of your overall evaluation. So most Indians have this problem that they didn't score well in their GMAT exam or their GRE exam or their TOEFL exam, and they feel that, no, I'm gone. That's not the case. About 80% of your overall evaluation is done through your profile, through your SOPs, through your past history, what work you have done, what research you have done, how you are contributing to society. GMAT and GRE, I'll repeat myself, GRE, GMAT scores only contribute to about 20% of your overall evaluation. I personally have seen people being rejected with a 780 score out of 800 in their GMAT exams. And people with a 650 got accepted for the same program just because a 780 score individual didn't have a very good profile. He was just scoring well in his GMAT exam. But a 650 score individual who scored a 650 had a very diverse profile. He did internships, he did research, he participated in co-curriculars, he was associated with an NGO. So don't be bogged down by a GMAT or a GRE score. A GMAT score of 650 plus is very competitive if you are able to portray your profile in a right manner. A GRE score of 310 plus is a very competitive score. So don't be bogged down by your GMAT, GRE scores. IELTS and TOEFL are it's not an evaluation criteria. So universities just take it as a benchmark that you are proficient in English, but they won't distinguish between a IELTS 7 band and an IELTS 8 band. It's just a filtration criteria. Anything above 6.5 or 100 plus in a GRE score, in a TOEFL or an IELTS score is acceptable to a university. Another question. I'll be giving IELTS in the end of November. So am I late? No, you are not late, but I would strongly recommend that you start analyzing, start shortlisting your university simultaneously. Have have that set of universities with you ready. Also, have your start working on your essays, your SOPs, your LORs simultaneously, so that at the once you are done with your IELTS, you have sufficient amount of time to prepare our application. Think in this direction. You for if 80% is 80% of your evaluation depends upon your profile, your not and not in your scores, so you should spend time in proportion to that. So if I'm spending 2 weeks preparing for my IELTS, so I should spend at least 2 months preparing my profile. So do justice to your profile, do justice to your essays, do justice to your SOPs. All that is required. Don't just focus on your IELTS for your English proficiency or on such examinations. Spend good amount of time on your profile building as well. Take things in parallel. Don't just focus on exam preparations. Focus on everything. Cheryl asked a question. I wish to get into 2021 MA graduate program. When should I give my IELTS and GRE? So Cheryl, 2020, you should recall the graph which I mentioned. Let me go back to that graph. So if you plan for a 2021 spring, you haven't mentioned whether you are planning for a spring, which is 2021 January, or a fall intake, which is a 2021 September. So if you are preparing for a spring intake, which is January 2020, you should actually start preparing at least 1 year in advance. That means you should, at this point of time, you should start shortlisting your universities. Once you are done with your university shortlisting, you should actually focus upon which exam is required as an eligibility for that examination. Please also try to understand many good universities give waiver on GMAT and GRE also. So it's important you utilize that as well. You shouldn't feel that if a university is giving a waiver on GRE, GMAT, that university is bad. No, that's not the case. Several good universities, tier 1 universities, basis the profile of the student, give a waiver on GRE, GMAT also. But for that, you need to have confidence in your profile. You need to discuss with the university reps. That's important. So I hope, Cheryl, I answered your question. You should start shortlisting. You should start working towards your program if you're planning for spring 2021 right now, with at least 1 year in hand, so that you are able to do justice to your entire application. Another question which has been asked is, which country is best for completing masters in AI? That's an interesting question, although it's not relevant to the current discussion which we have, but I'll still try to answer that. AI is a heavy buzzword at this present moment. Machine learning, AI, computer science is a very popular buzzword which is circulating across the globe. So if I talk about most of the research which is being done in the field of AI, it can either be the UK and USA are the primary countries who are doing the best of work in the field of AI and have the maximum opportunities when it comes to AI. So I strongly believe you should target these countries, be it USA, USA would be my first preference, and UK would be my second preference if it comes to masters in AI. Cheryl has asked another question. USA prefers a TOEFL exam. Do they specifically disregard IELTS? No, they do not specifically disregard IELTS. Either of the two is acceptable to most of the universities across the globe. Is it risky to give IELTS and apply to American universities? No, Cheryl, that's not the case. Most universities, about 80 to 90% of universities across the globe, across USA as well, accept IELTS also. That is not the case. No, it's not risky. Yes, but for sometimes you should, to make sure, while you are shortlisting universities, you should actually go through the eligibility criteria of that specific university and check out what are the eligibility criteria for that specific university. So just make sure that you are making sure you are foolproofing yourself, that you are not making the right choice. But be rest assured, IELTS is as widely accepted in the US as TOEFL. I hope that I answered your question. Okay, I have a few more questions. We have about 9 more minutes for this session. I have one question from Mr. Rana. What should we do for masters in Germany in automobile? For masters, IELTS plus GRE? That's an interesting question, Mr. Rana. So there's a lot of buzzword across the globe, across in India, and that Germany is coming up in a big way for masters. That is primarily because of multiple reasons. Heavy industry, heavy machinery industry, such as automobile manufacturing, is very good in Germany, as well as the cost of education is also very good in Germany. I'll give you an experience from a recent article which I read just yesterday, wherein one of our students was sharing his experience, who did his master's in Germany. Whereas he said that, yes, education is very good in Germany. It's cheap as well in Germany, but as a culture, Germans are not very receptive to international immigrants. So that's a challenge which he faced while he was doing his master's in Germany. Now, answering to your question, yes, IELTS plus GRE is the right choice if you want to appear for masters in Germany. So English proficiency is one, as well as GRE proficiency. Your aptitude proficiency is the second most required thing. Another thing which you need to consider is that several public universities which give education for free in Germany want you to be well versed in the German language. So you will be required to at least have a B2 level in the German language. You should be well versed in the German language till a B2 level for you to be accepted in a public university in a course in Germany. So just be careful. Yes, there are several universities which have a mode of communication in English, but majority of these universities have the mode of communication in the English language as well, in the German language as well. So just be careful about that when you are applying to Germany. Mr. Rana has a follow-up question. Which country should I prefer for Masters in Automobile 2020? I have already started learning German exam. It's really good that you have started learning your German exam. If you are dedicated towards automobile, I would strongly suggest that you stick to Germany. Start German language. If you are, so Max Müller Bhavan is the topmost German language provider, assistance provider in India. So they have a center across major metropolitan cities across India. So start working with them, start learning German through them, and give your A1, A2, B1, B2 exam. So typically A1, A2, each of these examinations requires 6 months of preparation. So by the time by 2022, you will be well versed by the B2 level English, by German language by 2022. So I hope that answers your question. So if you are looking for masters in automobile, stick for Germany. That's the best place for Germany for automobile. But if you are a little inclined towards other specializations apart from masters, so USA, UK, now UK has started giving post-work visas. So that's another great opportunity for all of us, for all aspirants to start appearing, to start applying to UK as well. Cheryl has another question. Which country would you suggest for MA in industrial and organizational psychology? Cheryl, that's a tough question. Industrial and organizational psychology, I won't be able to suggest you at this point of time. You can connect with the team at iSchoolConnect on the number which is there on the screen, and we'll analyze your requirements. We'll analyze your profile in deeper detail, and we'll help you out with that. With that, guys, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to ask questions to us. We are there to help you out with iSchoolConnect. Register on our website. We are doing great amount of work with technology, with artificial intelligence, and we are there to help you out in similar manners. So reach out to us. We'll help you out with your preparation. We are there to guide you with your preparation. And until next time, looking forward for the next webinar, which will happen pretty soon. We'll stay updated, and subscribe to our all social media channels. We are there. We spread a lot of information on our social media channels. Follow us on YouTube. We are there on Facebook. We are there on Instagram. Follow us, and we're going to help you out and provide you a lot of interesting content. Until next time, thank you so much.